Perfect. Looks like we are on the hour. So, again, welcome everybody to today's program, which is all about the apples. My name is Marlene Atkin. I'm a health coach and health educator. And today we're going to be talking about the apple. So, we've all heard the saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And there's some legitimacy there. It's for good reason. Aside from being a delicious and fun apple picking is always fun and it's a delicious treat. Apples also pack a pretty good nutritional punch. So, they're one of the top three fruits that are produced around the world. And there are a lot of different apples to choose from, over 100 different varieties grown just here in the US. And they all have very different flavor profiles. The most popular here in the US is Red Delicious, Macintosh, nice East Coast apple, Honey Crisp, Gala, Granny Smith, Golden Delicious, Fuji, Empire, and Pink Ladies, which happen to be my favorite. Anyway, so when you look at the basic nutritional content of apples, a 3-inch apple, which we're growing some much bigger ones, so keep that in mind. But on average, equals about a cup and a half of fruit, and you're going to get 95 calories with that, and 4 grams of fiber, 25 grams of carbs. Also, going to see vitamin C and K a significant amount, potassium a significant amount, and other variety of phytochemicals, as well as vitamin A, E, B1, B2, B6, manganese, and copper for our minerals. And the thing is that the skin, of course, is where you're going to get about half the fiber and a lot of those phytochemicals. But the whole apple is edible and delicious. When we talk about the health benefits of apple, this is where the apple a day keeping the doctor away comes in. There are quite a few to discuss. It's obviously a diet-friendly food. It's a portable, healthy snack. They're high in fiber and water, which make them filling and satisfying. Apples promote heart health in a variety of ways. They're high in a soluble fiber, which can help lower your blood cholesterol levels. They also contain those polyphenols and flavonoids, which have been shown to lower blood pressure and stroke risk. Eating apples is linked to a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, again, due to the polyphenol, antioxidants, and the high fiber content. Even though they contain natural sugars, small apples, about 19 grams of fruit natural sugar. The fiber that's in the apple contributes to making it a lower glycemic index food. So, therefore, they help to maintain blood sugar levels in your body, and that plays a very important role in diabetes management. One study actually showed, a rather large study, that 28% lower risk of developing diabetes by including apples regularly in your diet. Um, when it comes to gut health, apples contain a type of pectin. It's a type of fiber that acts like a prebiotic. Prebiotic means that it helps to feed the good bacteria in your gut, and we know that a healthy gut and healthy gut bacteria can protect against obesity, heart disease, and type 2 diabetes as well. Apples also have several antioxidant and anti inflammatory compounds that have been linked to lower risks of some cancers. The antioxidants that are in the apples can also protect your lungs from oxidative damage and protect against asthma. The flavonoid quercetin, which is found in the apple skin, helps to regulate immune system response. So that's where that can help. And then when it comes to bone health, antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds in fruit in general are what recommended for bone health. Eating fruit helps you to preserve your bone mass as we age. And when it comes to brain health, there was a study done that apple juice can help prevent the decline of neurotransmitters, which are involved in our memory. Of course, eating the whole fruit is generally more nutritious, but the study was done with apple juice. But you can imagine that eating apples too can contribute to that. Which brings us to the idea that, whole apples, again, provide the most health benefit. And not all apple products are created equal. For instance, applesauce Many of them have added sugars, especially the ones that are targeted towards our kids, and in the individual packaging. So it's something as a consumer, you want to really be reading the labels on that. A small container of some strawberry or cinnamon applesauces can have an additional 13 grams of added sugar in there. So your best bet is to choose an unsweetened applesauce or make your own, which we'll do a little have a little recipe for you for today. Apple juice, a lot like applesauce, often you find sugars added into it. Even those that don't have it though are very concentrated. So there's a lot of naturally occurring sugar in a very small package. And knowing kids, they can go through quite a bit of it in the day. So you want to be a little careful there because the juice has been stripped of those natural fibers, which help to manage the way the sugar is taken up into your system and your insulin response to it. And the cholesterol lowering and keeping your full benefits don't naturally occur with just the juice. Apple cider, it's that time of year, and man, is it delicious. It's a fall staple, but it is loaded with sugar. So you can enjoy this as a treat, but I wouldn't be drinking gallons of that either. And then we have those apple fruit snacks that they advertise for our kids. And it's important to keep in mind that a lot of times those fruit snacks are not actually fruit. The ingredients in a standard fruit snack is usually a fruit puree, but with corn syrup and sugar and cornstarch. So they aren't necessarily the healthy item that we sometimes think they are. So, given that, we know that you're always better off when you create your own treats because then you can control and you know what's going into it. And today I'm going to shut down this PowerPoint in a second and we're going to go over a couple of recipes, making your own apple chips, making a individual apple crisps in a jar. And anybody wants these recipes, I can make them available for you. Apple nachos, it's a great little treat to have on the table when the kids come in from school and they're looking to have a treat. And homemade applesauce. So we'll start with that. I think somebody has their hand up, so let me just stop sharing this screen and get us live here. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, so folks, if you do have your hand up, I have chat box open. So I know you can't come off mute. So if you have a question, just type it right into that chat box and I'll try to answer that as we go along. So let's make some healthy apple treats right here. So just gonna try to get this leveled off here so I can see you and you can see me and what I'm doing. So first recipe that we had there was a healthy applesauce. As we said, a lot of the applesauce that they show that you can pick up in the grocery has added things in it. So all I did here was I took 3 apples and I peeled them and put them in this saucepan and cooked it on medium heat for about 15, 20 minutes until they were really softened up. And it says, water to cover on the recipe. I used about, 2/3 to 3/4 of a cup of water. It depends on how many apples you have. And they soften up really beautifully here. And what I've done then is I'm making a strawberry applesauce. So I've got some frozen strawberries in here, and I'm just going to add in that apple with it. I'm also going to add in, I'll fill it all up later, and I'm going to throw in some cinnamon because everything is better with cinnamon. No question. Okay. But if you have any questions, anybody pop them up into the chat box. Okay. I can see that. And then we're going to blend this up. And what I got here is this really beautiful strawberry applesauce. No added sugar, only the apples. I actually used Granny Smith apple, which has a little bit of a tart flavor, and blended that with those frozen strawberries. And super easy. Took no time at all, and you've got this really delicious, beautifully colored too. Depending on what you add, you change the color. Kids always about color. Applesauce. This will I'll put this in a mason jar, and I'll store this in the fridge probably for up to about 2 weeks. Okay, so there's our first recipe, making our own homemade applesauce. Now, anybody who really likes apples, you see these in the grocery store, and these are just crunchy or apple crisps. And actually, this brand Bear, it only has apples as the only ingredient, so it's really not, it's a very, pretty healthy snack. Although there are concentrated sugars whenever you dry food out, the sugars concentrate. This happens to be Granny Smith, but they have different varieties. But this is $5 for this whole bag, and it's super easy to make those yourself. So I have some here that I've made, and I was going to show you with my mandolin about slicing them super thin. But I used a Granny Smith, and basically I had a mandolin, but I put it on the stove and it melted. But you want to do super, super thin slices, either with a mandolin or by hand. And just take those seeds out or core it. You're going to lay those out. This is a easy peasy recipe. You're going to lay those out on a baking sheet and sprinkle cinnamon on both sides. And I cook this in a 200-degree oven for about an hour. Just let it sit in there cooking. Then I flip them over, cook it for another hour. You cook them until you get a nice crisp apple treat. And again, no added sugars, delicious flavor. I used the Granny Smith because I like a tart apple, but you can use some of the sweeter ones. When it comes to apples and what you like, the sweet flavors, those are the ones that people often like to eat, things like the Gala, the Red and Golden Delicious, Fuji, Max, things like that. And some of the tart ones, they don't generally become mushy at high temperature. So that would be Jonna Gold, Granny Smith, Honeycrisp, Cortland's, things like that. So absolutely delicious. You get a nice crunch. If you have an air fryer, often they have a dehydration mode that you can use as well. So there's my healthy apple crisps. Super easy to make and delicious. Now, and the kids love them, and you can store those in an airtight container as well, and they will last for a little bit of time. So the next thing up that we're going to make is I did these beautiful little individual apple crisps in a jar, and I made one already, and this would be delicious if you have these in the fridge. You could add some whipped cream or ice cream to the top of it, or even some dollop of yogurt would make it a little bit of a healthier treat. And let's go through how we made those. So first things first, I have apples that I've peeled and diced up. Now, just a little tip or trick that I've learned when I have this apple slicer here, a lot of times apples are wobbly. So I always actually cut a square, cut the bottom flat so that once I use this and pop it on, it's much easier to separate the apple because it's not rolling all over the place. So that's just a little hack. And meanwhile, I've peeled these apples, but we know a lot of the fiber and the nutrition is in the peel. So what can you do with apple peels once you've peeled them? You don't necessarily have to throw them away. You could take apple peels, stew it in a cup of hot water with a cinnamon stick. Just grab a cinnamon stick in there and make an apple tea, which is delicious. You can julienne this and add this to a salad to get the nutritional value. So don't throw those peels out. Certainly you can compost it as well. So that's a great thing. But this is a mixture of Pink Lady and again, my green apples, Granny Smith apples. And basically what we're gonna make is individual little jars. So I take the apples, and this recipe calls for adding some sugar to it. I think that just basically sweetens up the apples a little bit. So I'm going to do that. I also happen to absolutely love cinnamon. So I always add the cinnamon to the apple as well. It calls for you to add it into the crumble mix, but I also add it here. So I'm going to do that and let those sit for a little bit. And then from there, we've got here, this is the oatmeal, which was a half a cup of oatmeal, and it was a quarter cup of butter, which I softened. And you can see I've made this kind of crumbly mix. Again, I'm going to add some brown sugar here and a little bit of a baking mix. I'm making these gluten-free, so I'm actually using a gluten-free baking mix and gluten-free oats. Even though oats are not a traditional gluten food, a lot of times if they're not labeled specifically gluten-free, they can be processed in a plant with gluten. So if there's an issue, you might want to use a gluten-free specific oats. So I've got this all crumbled up here, and I'm just going to keep adding that in. If you had a pastry blender, it would work great, but I'm using my little blender thing here to make it work. And there it is. And there's my nice crumble mix right in there. So basically, I've got these cute little mason jars. These are 8-ounce ones. You could use butter inside. I am going to just spray the inside with a coconut oil just so that it doesn't stick. And essentially, we're going to start with the crumble mix. And I'll pop just a little bit of that in the bottom of the jar. And then add in some of the apples, a nice thing of apples. I'll add in some more crumble mix. And then more apple. It's going to be individual apple crisp. My little I want to make sure I have a tray under them. You could use a plain tray, but mine happen to fit pretty well into this little cupcake tray. So I'll pop that in there. I'll make these up, throw those into an oven, which would be 375 for about 20 minutes or so. When they are all nice and browned, when they come out, let them cool completely before you cover them back up. And I'll store these in the fridge. And as I mentioned, I can take these out. They'll last a couple of days and give it maybe a quick nuke in the microwave, and then add some ice cream or whipped cream or yogurt, whatever to it. And those make such a cute little snack and portable snack. So individual apple crisps. Okay, so I also have some other ideas for apple slices, and I want to talk a little bit about you know, whether you should be concerned about organic or non-organic when it comes to apples. Probably, I don't know, a dozen or so years ago, there was this whole big hubbub about apples with alar, which was a some kind of a growth in chemical that they were using on apples, and there was concern about that as a whole, and that was removed from our apples. But apples still do tend to be on the environmental working group's list of fruits that you want to have organic, because they tend to have a higher concentration of chemicals on it. So you can, you know, I tend to buy organic apples frequently. Since 2014, the European Union actually does not import apples from the US, because there is another chemical, DPA, that we still allow that they don't allow. So, you know, just be an educated consumer about it. But that being said, whether it's organic or non-organic, as with all your fruit, you want to make sure that you're really cleaning it when you get home, because, you know, beyond the chemicals, people have been touching it all over the grocery and everything else. So a nice little fruit or produce brush and run it under plain water and scrub it up is the way to go. If you want to soak a whole big batch of apples, 1 teaspoon of baking soda mixed with 2 cups of water, and you can, you know, increase that accordingly. That's the ratio. You can soak your fruit in that for, you know, 10 to 15 minutes and then rinse it. And that's also a nice way to make sure that you're getting all of your fruit clean before you use it. I already showed you my little trick for using this fancy apple cutter. So what I have here, which is a cute little recipe, is apple nachos. Who doesn't love nachos, right? So I've basically quartered the apples, and then I like them a little thinner, so I've cut them again since I did that piece of it. And if you were doing this ahead of time for a party, you could put some lemon juice on that, and it would prevent it from turning brown. And then just stack them decoratively on a dish, and super easy. All I'm going to do here is I have half cup of peanut butter. Now, again, peanut butter is one of those things you want to make sure you're using a natural peanut butter. If you go down the grocery aisle and pick up, a half a dozen different peanut butters, you can see that quite frequently they have additional additives in them. They're not just peanut butter. Some of them have other oils, corn oil, sweeteners, things like that added to it. So you want to make sure that, you're doing a um, unsalted, unsweetened peanut butter. I mean, the salt's not such a bad thing if you don't have an issue with it, but I like to make sure I have a nice basically clean peanut butter. Now, again, all I have here is the apples. This is my peanut butter. I'm going to stir in a little bit of honey in here just to sweeten that a bit. You don't have to. If you're not looking for the sweet, you could use just the peanut butter. What I didn't is I took this and put it in the microwave for about 15 seconds to make it a little bit runny. You could take it out every 15 seconds if it hasn't gotten runny enough yet and put it in again. And then I just kept it in a bowl with boiling water to keep it kind of liquefied. So here we go. And the recipe doesn't call for it, but I, again, love my cinnamon. It's great. Cinnamon's a great metabolism booster, among other things. And so I'm going to add some cinnamon right in there too. Another great little snack to have during the day is just some peanut butter natural with some cinnamon. Mix it all together and dip your apple slices into it. I often do that as a midday snack. You're getting a little bit of the healthy fat and protein from the peanut butter, and you're getting the great fiber and all the wonderful properties from the apple. Okay, so now here we go. All I have is this peanut butter. I am just going to let that swirl all on top of my apple slices here, as much or as little as you want. And then, now this peanut butter is a great one on here. You could butter stir everything. I could add would be some melted dark chocolate. 70% or more dark chocolate actually has a lot of polyphenols and other benefits as well. So there's my nachos with peanut butter. And what I'm going to put on it is this really delicious ginger granola that I found here. But you could put a whole lot of different things on there. And there you have crunchy apple nachos. Doesn't get easier. So if you went apple picking and you've got a whole lot of apples and you're trying to figure out ways to make them more appetizing for the kids, this would be a great way to do it. And apple nachos. So that's a few of our recipes. The other thing I just wanted to go over when we talked about an average apple. So when we talk about like about a 3.5 inch, now there's all kinds of apples being grown these days, different varietals. And if you go to a farmer's market, you might find some heirloom apples that they grow, different cultivars. And some of them are really larger. So if you are, calorie conscious or worried about the calories of something, you have to understand that a standard apple, when you're reading the calories, is about, the size of this small Granny Smith. I've seen these really large too. But when you get into a much bigger apple like this, you want to just be aware of that. There could be some difference in that. The other thing is one of my other favorite treats, and I just need to, this happens to be an envy apple, which isn't all that popular, but you can find a lot of different ones out there. I know different times a year there are different apples available. And so we would talk about storing apples. To prolong freshness for your apples, you want to store them in the crisper drawer of your refrigerator. And they'll usually stay fresh for really up to 1 to 2 months, maybe even a little bit longer. They are climatic, which means they'll continue to ripen even after you harvest them. And they emit a gas called ethylene. That's what continues to ripen it. So if you have apples out on the counter they will ripen faster than if you keep them in the crisper drawer. And because they are emitting that ripening gas, if you put other fruits and vegetables in the drawer with the apple, they too will ripen perhaps faster. So you might want to keep these separated. So that's just a little bit about storage for your apples. If you're keeping them on the counter, that ripening will happen there maybe for, you might have like a week or two that you can keep them out, but the texture will change. They'll, they'll get a little softer and mushier. So we talked about which ones there. If you look online, you'll get a lot of information about ways to um, which apples are best for baking, which apples are best for different recipes. You can always Google that if you have a recipe in mind. Apple pie, for instance, Macintosh apples, which are, pretty prolific on the East Coast, they tend to, they're pretty soft, so they tend to become more of liquefied or mushy, whereas a Cortland might hold its shape better. So when I do an apple pie, I generally do half and half. So just keep that in mind as you're baking to see if you like it more to hold its shape better. You might want something that's a little bit, different apple. So the another great little snack, if particularly if you're, managing your carbohydrates, is an apple like this rather large apple. I'm going to cut two somewhat thicker slices from it. And these are like a mini apple pizza. You can pop peanut butter right on the top of that. And then one of my favorite treats is to put the peanut butter on and then use a little bit of a trail mix and put that all over the top of it. And put the top on and you have an apple sandwich. So a lot of fun things. And if you have those cut, you can also, the kids love to get involved in that too and put cereal. You could put Rice Krispies or different cereals on that. And I'm not going to spread the peanut butter on because I always get a mess when I do that. But certainly this makes a great little base. You can either leave it open. Cheeses are also terrific with apples. So you could feasibly make a cheese sandwich with the apple, a nice piece of cheddar cheese and 2 apple slices. It makes a great little treat. So there's really a lot of different ways that we can use our apples. We're coming up on the last few minutes here. Wanted to talk about the difference. We talked a little bit about apple cider and apple juice, but there really is a difference. When they're making apple cider, they're mashing the whole raw apple and then pressing to get the liquid out. And that's why it's usually a little cloudier, because you get some of the sediment, you get, some of the other pulp and sediment in the apple cider, and it can be pasteurized or unpasteurized. It's slightly more acidic, but it does have more flavonoid than an apple juice. When they make apple juice, it's filtered to remove all of the solids, and then it's pasteurized so that it stays fresher longer. And sometimes, again, sugar's added, so you want to read your labels. The filtration takes out the tartness and the bitterness from the pulp in the apple, so it's generally sweeter and a little bit more uniform, sweet flavor. Sure. Okay, so I'm going to leave just a minute or two up here if anybody has any specific questions about apples. Kathleen, yes, I will send those recipes to the Harvard Pilgrim, to Andrea, and she can send them to you from there. Any other questions? My house smells like apples. I'm going to be eating apple all day long. I can't wait to try that apple crisp. That apple crisp recipe too is for individuals, but you can certainly do that in one big dish or baking sheet or baking, pie dish. Delicious. One of my other tricks when I have craving something at night a little bit sweet, Andrea put up her email address, so anybody who's interested in receiving the recipes, please email Andrea and she will forward them to you. So a favorite little trick I have at night if I'm craving something sweet is I will take an apple, I leave the skin on, and dice it and put it in a nonstick pan with just a couple teaspoons of water and soften it. And then once that water kind of evaporates in the pan, I'll throw some just plain oats and cinnamon in there. Maybe give it a quick spray of coconut oil spray and toast that up a little bit with the apples. And it is the quickest, easiest apple crisp that you can have, and totally satisfies that little bit of sweet craving that you have. Great. Well, I'm so glad that you all enjoyed our half hour. And yep, there are many, many options with your apples. So if you're out there apple picking and you bring them all home, you can get very creative with it. I'm going to actually make an apple sandwich today. I'm going to put some nice cheddar cheese in the middle of these two big slices that I have, and have a little cheddar cheese apple sandwich for a snack this day. So enjoy your apples. Any other questions before I sign off? The slide with the apples that are tart to sweet. You know what? I'm not sure. Let me see if I can do that. If not, what I can do is, what I will do with that is I will copy that and include that in the email with the recipes to Andrea. And then that she can send that along with the recipes, Sonia. So if you email Andrea_Maestros@harvardpilgrim.org, she can send you the, I'll include that with the recipes. And it looks like there's one question. Oh, okay, that was the same question. Okay, great. Okay, anybody else? Any other questions? So I will send that that slide. Lots of great information online too about different apples and where they come from. This actual big apple here I used for slices is actually Australia. So it just goes to show you, apples, because they're hardy, a lot of times they travel far distances. So if you're into local, do a little research about what's local. The email address is on the chat. It is Andrea, ANDREA _Maestros, MAISTROS at harvardpilgrim.org. Hopefully that answers everybody's questions. Thank you. You are all welcome. You're all welcome. I can't wait to dig into these. Look how good these look, these apple nachos. I'm telling you, I can't wait. I love ginger too, so the ginger with the apple would be great. And you can always add some ginger into your apple crisp. It makes it nice and tart as well. So I think we're on the half hour here. If there are no more questions, then thank you everybody for joining. And I will get those recipes right off, and that information on the different types of apples, so you can get that from Andrea. Okay, I think that's it. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your apples.